Remember searching SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to another episode of Single Muslim Live here on British Muslim TV, sponsored by SingleMuslim.com. I'm Fahima Mohammed, your relationship coach, as well as your host for today. Really excited for an exclusive interview and discussion today. Make sure that you are part of this show. If you want, you can have a discussion with my guest tonight, and you can call in when it's basically anytime throughout the whole show for WhatsApp or message us for free. The number is 01924231083. Make sure you ask the bill payer's permission before calling in, as standard network rates do apply. If you want to send us a message for free and anonymously, you can do so on the free WhatsApp service, and that number is 07585835150. I am so excited to introduce my guest tonight, all the way from the USA, but streaming from Istanbul in Turkey. And we have with us a very special episode with some amazing guests who are Coach Nazir, Coach Fatima, and Coach Nyla. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ramadan Mubarak.
Ramadan Mubarak to you too. Thank you so much for being here today. I know we've been planning this for months and it's absolutely ecstatic. And I'm really excited to have you with us tonight. It's a really taboo topic, very controversial, and you are very brave and also allowing us your time. So yeah, we're going to go straight into it. Like you said, at the end of the day, we have no time to waste. I've got so many questions for you. Anyone that's watching, please do send in your questions and queries. This is a topic about polygamy. Now, firstly, I want to come to the lady Fatima. Coach Fatima, you are the first wife. Now tell me a little bit about this whole idea of polygamy, the dynamics in your household to begin with.
Well, for us, it wasn't as easy at first because I got married so young, but in our household currently, we all want to win in polygyny. We want our family to win as a unit, as a tribe, as a whole. So we make it our goal every day to do that. Wasn't an easy transition. It wasn't an easy transition, but I found out that if we all were invested in all of us winning, then we were going to win as a family. And that felt good to make that decision, and maybe at different times, but we all indeed made that decision because polygyny is not just happening to us, it's happening to our family as a whole.
Absolutely. I think it's really honest. It's a really open discussion. And at the end of the day, Coach Nazir, what made you decide to have a second wife, and how was that process for you?
Well, as you know, just to give a little bit of background, I've been married to Coach Fatima now for 27 years and Coach Nyla for 12. And one of the reasons we began OutstandingPersonalRelationships.com is because we didn't have those resources. Like, I'm a Muslim. I reverted to Islam. We were all raised Christian, and I wanted to experience all of Islam, if you will. So I was open to polygamy to begin with. However, I wasn't actively looking at the time. So I wasn't going, pursuing and looking and anything like that. I wasn't dissatisfied with my marriage. Polygyny is not just, somebody's dissatisfied and think they're going to fix something. There's a lot of myths and stereotypes that go along with it. I mean, I'm married to 2 women right now, and between us, we have 12 children. Okay. I'm more focused on helping my children get married, and I have 3 daughters actually interested in practicing polygyny over monogamy, if you will. So even though I'm not looking right now, I'm open, but I'm not looking. I'd rather help my children get married, if that makes sense. That's kind of the position I'm in versus going and looking to actively practice polygyny.
Absolutely. Really love everything that you're saying so far. Coach Nyla, when it comes to you, how were you taken aback by the fact that you were going to be a second wife or the other wife? How was that with you when you got married?
Well, with me, People will tease me and talk about how, oh, you're so naive. How did you not know that, it could cause issues or problems or things like that? Because sometimes it can. But my thing is, I saw a big, happy family. I saw being an addition to a family. I saw a sister who can help me with Islam and I can grow with and all these different things like that. So it wasn't what people seem to kind of paint as this picture of, you're coming in to wreck something, or you're coming in and you don't know what other people are feeling or anything like that. It was pretty much a whole type of one big happy family. We're going to grow and we're going to learn, and there's going to be
and that's not what happened.
Sunshine and rainbows and kittens and unicorns, but
maybe a little naive, but
normally when we do hear of people taking on a second wife, it's normally quite private and it's normally very separate. You are the exception, because obviously we've seen you all together. I know even growing up myself, I have heard of, whether it was extended relatives or people in the community that had a second family, it was very, very separate. What makes, your family dynamic so different that you can actually come together as one, so to say? Anyone can answer this.
See, we have to understand, when you're looking at it now, basically you're looking at our chapter 12.
Mm-hmm.
Our chapters 1 through 5, for example, was more separate than everything else. And that was really me trying to develop my leadership and how I wanted the family to be so far as a vision, because we had to weigh whether or not we wanted to be like the polygynous families that are most successful, which are private, they mind their own business like normal. Or if we wanted to be a blessing to live up to the hadith of Prophet Islam, which said Allah loves the person who's the most beneficial to others, and share what we were able to discover and kind of reverse engineer. So we decided to kind of go public, to be that resource, because monogamy gets its fair airplay all day, and polygamy, just like you opened up the show with, gets that taboo topic. But if Allah Ta'ala is the all-wise, and he is, and he allowed polygyny, then it's an ancient solution for a modern day problem. So we chose to go ahead and take those arrows, just like we did when we accepted Islam. We changed our diet, we travel in the world. We'll take those shots, and inshallah ta'ala get many blessings and barakah from that.
When you mention, because I know even in the adverts, I know Coach Fatima especially was saying that it is maybe an ancient solution to a modern day problem. Explain me more about what that actually means. What is the modern day problem that you think that something like polygamy can actually resolve?
I've
Coach
seen
Fatima
so
first.
many, coming from the United States, I've seen a dynamic of a breakdown of the nuclear family, and it is an epidemic in that area. I know it can happen all over the world, but especially in the West. And my parents didn't get married. So, and then my grandparents who raised me got divorced. So I saw so many single women, so many single mothers walking around trying to just keep their head above water, and it was difficult even in my own family, witnessing it firsthand. My mother struggled always, my grandmother struggled always after the family was broken apart. And I said, once I became Muslim, I said, if they were Muslim and possibly open to polygyny, just in our society, just locally where we just lived, in our town, in our city, we saw so many single mothers. It was insane.
80% of households.
80% of households are from a single mom. And I thought that was so heartbreaking. And I said, there's a solution to this. It might not be simple for everybody to grasp, but there is a solution to this problem, because this is a problem. When there's not a mother, a father that are there in a leadership position, in a parental role, to not be able to partnership and parent their children together. So it's very sad, and we saw it every day. So I knew for a fact that polygyny could help with that, a tremendous amount.
I love the fact that you said that.
It doesn't mean it was easy.
No.
Absolutely. No, like you said, this is chapter 12 in your whole entire story. And you're absolutely correct that I've just come into it with just the idea of polygamy. But at the end of the day, there is a transformation over time. And you've gone through that over many years and stages. Now, there is a challenge, especially in the West, even with all the issues that you mentioned, but there's especially, the ones that have never been married, or the younger generation, the new generation, for example, they want it all. They want it the sort of like, the Hollywood style, and they want that person for themselves. And it's very difficult as humans to share, not make comparisons, have envy, jealousy with another woman, especially if their husband's going to share it. Now, I'll come to you in a minute, Coach Nazir, but Coach Nyla, for you, how do you feel that you can maybe have the voice for some of these youngsters who are struggling to get married? We have got an epidemic of divorce. We have got a huge amount of young sisters, like you said, who are either single with children or single getting older. So at the end of the day, what would be your words of encouragement to sort of say, to be open to this kind of thing? Because it is not easy for an individual to take. I mean, do you have to be a coach like yourself?
No, not at all. That's interesting too, because I was a single mother before getting married and then divorced, and then a single mother twice around before getting into polygyny. And I was raised by a single mother who was raised by a single mother. So I know the epidemic is, real. I've seen it, I've lived it. So, but being able to teach people and coach people and talk to people about just pretty much getting into personal development, also realizing the bigger picture of it all. Because when it comes down to it, a lot of people, they don't just want just a companionship, they want a family, they want to build a legacy, they want these different things. And to do it morally is to get married. And there may be times where, what they say, the best men are already taken, for the most part, but to be open-minded enough, because if you have a great leader, you have to think about what you want your winning team to look like. You want to make sure that you're choosing the best person to lead your winning team.
Thank you, Nyla.
So,
I'm going to interrupt you there because we are going into a break. You've given us so much insight so far. We've really gone into the show really head on. And to be honest, we're going to have this break to get some few more questions in. Hopefully, you're going to see if there's anyone that actually has any queries. But please stay exactly where you are. We're going to be back, and inshallah, we'll be asking more questions to all our coaches today. And inshallah, we'll see you in a few moments.
With 3 million members searching, SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Single Muslim Live here on British Muslim TV, sponsored by SingleMuslim.com. I have amazing coaches today, Coach Nazir, Coach Nyla, Coach Fatima, who are discussing polygamy and their dynamic in the household. And I know we've gone straight into it to say how they've come together, how they're living together, but honestly, there are a lot of challenges even coming into this kind of dynamic, and we're going to go into that. But I do have a few comments that have come through to the Facebook page. And basically, people are saying, for example, that they're Muslim, but they do not support polygamy. And the other thing is, polygamy is totally against women's nature. It simply proves men's lust for women's body. I know these are very individualistic ideas, but we are going to address, some of the comments that we do have. What's your thoughts on this, anyone, with regards to what I've just said? Coach Fatima, what do you think about that? Especially, if they're talking about men only having a desire for women, and that's the only reason why they will have, these kind of extra, marriages. What's your thoughts on that?
I think what sometimes people don't like something that they fear because they don't understand it. And there are some that don't want to understand. They want it to be wrong and be something from the devil, straight from the start. And I noticed that people have said this more than a little bit to us and in our own comments on our own social media platforms. And sometimes people just don't want to see you happy. They don't want to see your family win. But I know men are not as surface. That's a very surface, basic way of thinking about men. And it's a very blanket, general statement. which can be very unfair. I know the men that are in polygyny that are doing it right are wanting to stretch themselves and be more, and they want to practice the sunnah of the Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam. It's not just this thing of, let me go collect the women and pick them like daisies until I have what I need. Because polygyny is not something that is a selfish act. When you're trying to expand family, when you're trying to grow your family and actually be there, be a spouse, parent your children purposefully, then you're stretching yourself and you're becoming more. I've seen it and I've witnessed it firsthand with Coach Nazir, because I've shown up as friend and not just wife to him. And I've said, he's trying his best because he wants to practice. And you were saying that earlier, he wants to be in every part of Islam that he can be, that's allowed for him to practice. So we must be clear, especially as Muslims, about that.
And I need to interject at this point as well.
Absolutely.
That's one of the most dismissive things that you can say. Oh, it's just only all about sex. All right, is sex involved and important? Yeah, of course, in any marriage it is. But when we just dismiss it, it says about sex, are you telling me the only way people in our society go ahead and have sex is through marriage? I mean, really, is that it? Isn't it much easier to just go ahead and deal with the escorts or the mistresses and the girlfriends and boyfriends, all these types of things that are going on that are the norm right now, than to go ahead and make this commitment and contract and build a family? Because how many, it's 24 hours in a day. I mean, how many hours a day are you really having sex? When you think about that, right? You know, we have to really put things in perspective, but it's a very dismissive thing. But Allah Ta'ala knows what he's created. Is our drive, for sexual gratification more than women's? Yes, in general, yeah, absolutely is. Are we built differently? Yeah. How many children could we have per year? That's to be seen. You know what I'm saying? So we are built differently, no question. But Allah Ta'ala has given us and told us of the responsibilities, which is very, very important. But so we can be dismissive and just say, oh, it's just all about sex and lowly, lustful desires. No, I haven't really seen. If it's about sex and lowly, lustful desires, you can find them on the porn channels with the prostitutes and the escorts and the rest of that. It's highly unlikely they'll go ahead and decide to form and start a family. Like I said, you see the three of us here, and we do not live in the same household. We stay in close proximity, walking distance from each other. But as I mentioned, we have 12 children. Now, not all 12 live with us in between our houses and stuff like that, but they range from 26 years old all the way down to 4 years old. So we have children in every stage. We're building families and changing not only our religion, but our future generations by accepting Islam and showing a healthy way on how to practice other areas that other people, sadly, who are Muslims, who don't recognize, either don't recognize the wisdom behind it, but then they have the audacity with their tongues to bring upon them something that they don't understand is a major sin. When Allah Ta'ala says, when he and his messenger have decided something, it's not for the believer to have any type of opinion. Now, that doesn't mean you have to like it or even practice it. But when you start talking bad against something that is clear in Quran that is a solution, then we are putting ourselves above Allah. And do not forget, ladies in particular, if you make it to Jannah, you will not be your husband's only wife.
I love everything that you've said, and I think you've cleared it out so beautifully. I think it's so true. And the one word that sticks with me is that when you are married, it is a responsibility, and it's not just the one thing, like you mentioned about the intimacy, as what we all just, throw out these words thinking that marriage is only about that, but there is so much commitment involved. And that's the other thing I want to ask you actually is the challenges, because like you said, you've gone through so many years and stages and steps to actually get to this point. Now, obviously you've come through that point and you've overcome that kind of adversity, and I'm sure you still have a few, but at the same time, it's made you who you are today. Now, what are those challenges? What are the challenges of actually entering into a polygamous sort of, relationship and a marriage besides children? We're going to get into that afterwards, but this is just between the dynamics of the three of you where you're trying to manage, like, what was it like at the very beginning? Did you even like the other wife? How was it? And how did you manage your time between them? Because they do say to keep it equally or to keep it fair. I mean, can even a human be able to do that? There's so much around this. Okay, so Coach Nyla, you tell me first, did you find that you stepping into an already established family was something that was easy, or how was the challenges? Let's talk about the actual difficulties of that.
No, it wasn't easy at all. That's the short answer. But no, it wasn't easy at all. As I stated before, my mental of it, was not what it turned out to be, at the beginning. So I still had a beautiful vision for it. I knew Coach Nazir and Coach Fatima. They weren't Coach Nazir and Coach Fatima to me, but I knew them before stepping into polygyny. However, I was also married before and all these different things like that. So this was nothing that was like, oh, okay, well, you know what? This would be, the family that I'm going to, practice polygyny with or anything like that. That's not how it happened. However, after a failed marriage and being a single mother a second time around and knowing that Islam allows polygyny and different things like that, and reading more about it, I said, you know what, polygyny actually makes sense. And I'm like, I know, people who are like a perfect, family type of thing. And I actually didn't realize, but I actually come from a blended family, not in polygyny. We know nothing about that. But Coach Fatima told me before, she was like, it's kind of easy for you to kind of blend because that's kind of how you grew up. And I've had step brothers and sisters or bonus brothers and sisters, as we call them today, and things like that. And it was not difficult to know what it can be, but just dealing with other dynamics and what's the word I'm looking for? Different feelings and emotions and things like that. That's what makes it a little bit more difficult, because you're not just dealing with what you're thinking or what you're feeling, you're dealing with what others are thinking and feeling as well in the dynamic.
I think it's so true also what you say, as well as Coach Nazir has mentioned before, with regards to as soon as we bring it into the actual act of Islam, then it's criticized and scrutinized. But when you see loads of a lot of people that are actually practicing against our Islam, then, we kind of go silent, or we brush it under the carpet, or we push it to one side. So when this is something which is actually something that, which we are allowed, it's not for everyone, like you said, and not everyone can handle it or should even go into it. We're not, promoting this. We're talking about as an extra option, especially when you mentioned today about the problems that we have in society. And I myself do advocate for the household being strong, because that's what builds our society as Muslims. And because that's breaking down, that's actually breaking the Islamic Ummah. So I really understand where you're coming from, but it takes a certain mindset. Now, when you're talking about, especially people from the West, and like you mentioned, they will do things which is untoward, un-Islamic, and, they'll disregard it. But when it comes to actually taking on responsibility and making a commitment like this, it's a whole nother level. Now, how do you actually manage your time to be fair? And is it like counted by your wives, Coach Nazir? Or do you feel that, it is because you've got an easy dynamic between the two of you that it's not something that you're actually counting, but you are as fair as you can?
We formed something called a Polygamy Masterclass, or PolygamyMasterclass.com, to really address it. But there's two things that really need to be fair or relatively equal, which is time and money. And I call those two things measurables. So what I do is rotate pretty much every 24 hours easily with time. So far as money goes, we have apps and stuff for that, and know what we pretty much cover. That's a relatively easy thing to do. So the measurables are the easy things, the time and the money. That can be seen, that can be measured. They know one way or the other what's going on in that position. But the other parts, so far as the emotional intelligence, the leadership, the development, all of that matters that much more. So my wives have told me you need to be twice the man if you want to practice polygyny. And either in our ummah, we believe that we are weak men, unfair, and totally unable to be polygynous, meaning take care of 2, 3, or 4, as Allah Ta'ala mentioned. That's why we only have one and only promote one, or we're just scared and weak in general. Again, polygyny is an option. Is it for everybody? No, it's not. Is marriage for everybody? No. But we know with the amount of people getting in domestic abuse situations, those who are addicted, those who are depressed and on drugs and all of that, there's slim pickings for women. And I'm a wali of 5 daughters, 2 of them who are married, they want a monogamy. The other 3 want their husband to practice polygamy because they know the benefits. So it makes it difficult for me because I have to find a man that's qualified.
Wow, that is so interesting. And we're going to come straight back to you, but we are going into a short break very, very soon. Make sure that you stay with us. I have so much more questions for you. You have really highlighted a different angle, a different perspective, giving us so much insight into, your household and, actually being really open and authentic. And I do want to thank you as well for being honest about, your actual family. It is not easy to speak about, but you know what, you do it beautifully. And you're being absolutely authentic about the reality of it and the reasons behind it. And again, we are not promoting this, we are speaking about it. We know that we have to follow the law of the land and how it states, but Islamically it is slightly different, and we're going to go into that a little bit more about the West and also the East in that. So make sure if you want to have any questions, ask myself or my guest tonight. You have a perfect opportunity to do so by calling in directly at the studio. But we will be seeing you in a few moments. Please stay exactly where you are, and we'll see you shortly. Assalamu alaikum.
With 3 million members searching, SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Single Muslim Live here on British Muslim TV, sponsored by SingleMuslim.com. We're having such an interesting conversation today about polygamy, and we have amazing guests who are actually opening up their world, their family, their home to us live on screen, to everyone. So please make sure that you do rewind, watch, or even later on, please do so. I know you're breaking your fast right now in Istanbul, and you're still giving us your time, and I appreciate it. And you're going to go pray one by one. So we're doing everything live right now, and it's absolutely amazing. Coach Fatima, tell me a little bit more about the beginning, because normally a lot of wives, the first one will say absolutely no, or they will not be that welcoming, even if it was to be something that they have no control over. Now, your attitude, from what Coach Nyla mentioned previously, was the fact that you actually gave some words, I mean, not encourage her, but words of support to a certain extent, to say that, I know you as a person and you would fit in our family if that was the case. Now, that is a very, very hard thing to do. Now, talk me through that process of what was going through your mind when you actually understood that this is what's going to happen to you and your family, your husband, who's going to be taking on a second wife. And how did you have to switch or change in order for you to be that kind of sister as well, in a way, and accepting? What was it in your mind?
Well, I had to think a lot about the Quran and the Sunnah versus my nafs. So at first you're going, it's all about what I want to not go on. And then you change it and start to do this really positive, healthy self-talk. Now, that didn't happen overnight. So, and I would have dreams that they were married and all these different things. I did share that with Coach Nazir too, earlier, before they got married. So I said, well, this must be a sign from Allah, because I don't dream about these people being together ever. But it was a lot of turning negative, limiting beliefs into positive, hopeful beliefs. And saying to myself, she's supposed to be here. She's his wife, just like I'm his wife. And then I found myself speaking that to others as well. And then if it makes sense, takes the sting away from it when you tell yourself this person is supposed to be here because this is the qadar of Allah. And you accept it for what it is. I can't say my life is the qadar of Allah, but their lives together is not. My marriage is the qadar of Allah, but theirs isn't. She's here, I know she's here, but that wasn't Allah's plan. I don't get to say that. I don't have the privilege to say that. So it was a lot of remembering what I thought was supposed to be on Coach Nazir's timeline, and understanding the reality of who was supposed to be on it. You see what I'm saying? I had a vision in my mind, but that wasn't what Allah's vision was, or what his qadr was for him. So it's a lot about accepting what Allah has put forth and in front of me, and saying, okay, I have to accept this, because this is what it was always going to be. always. And I could have did everything to try to change it, but I don't have that power. So it was going to always be this way.
Okay, so now you've accepted at that stage at the very beginning, but obviously being human, there comes either the questions of, slightly even yourself, thinking like how Coach Nazir mentioned, that not always it's about, you're not being good enough. But as a woman, you might think, was I not fulfilling enough? Or was there jealousy? Was there comparison? Were those kind of things that you actually had at the very beginning as well? And how did you manage through that, if you did have any of those kind of thoughts?
You have all kinds of thoughts. You got anger, you got denial, you have, you start to self-evaluate in a negative way. Mm-hmm. You go, oh, was I the cause of this? Or there's something that maybe we got married too young, or maybe I had too many children. You start thinking about wild things. And then Shaitan is in there stirring and I'll go, yeah, you weren't good enough. Keep it going. Because he wants you to feel bad. So I started to understand that a lot of the whispering that was going on was not from me. It was indeed from Shaitan. I bought into it. But then I reached a point where I said, no, I'm lovable. I've done this much. My stats look great. We built a family together. And our family has become so attractive that another sister wants to marry into it. So once I started doing that, then I empowered me. Because I did so much to diminish my own character, and no one else said, you know what, you should be really insecure and jealous because she's the bomb and you just not. Nobody said that to me but me. And then Shaitan was going, absolutely right. He was encouraging that, because it's evil. It's just straight up evil to take all this goodness and turn it into something that's really horrible. So I stopped doing that. And then when I stopped doing that, I found my healing.
Wow. It's really inspirational hearing you speak, because it's not just about the dynamics of polygamous relationships. I think what you're saying is for every relationship, to be honest, because, I deal with a lot of issues when it comes to the household, and you hear these kind of self-talk and they destroy their own relationships just by that. So I think it really does make a difference, when you are also into that self-development world where it can actually help you. That's why, we have these shows every week so that we can encourage people to learn more about themselves, learn more about their human psychology and mindset, because it does make a huge difference. And again, it's not just from outside our faith, it is from our faith, but we just don't read it that way. Now, when it comes to having children, obviously some of you came into marriage with children, but normally, as we know, even in the animal kingdom, we have this one unit, and that's how you feel safe and secure. And most kids are, aligned with that, whether it's in the West or the East, and you have that and it's the norm. How was that conversation when you had to explain to your children in different stages as well? Because obviously when they're very young, it's different to when they get older. And even if they were accepting to begin with as teenagers, that flip and that switch and how it could be, and it could be used as an excuse to even be, outside the family and not be part of it. So tell me a little bit more about the children, and how do you make it work when it comes to happy families, being with having two moms and a dad and having stepchildren, but then you are quite close together. So talk me through the stages, each one of you, because you obviously all have your own perspective and your own experience, even in one family.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just share. One of the things that we're high on is education. Anyway, so that's one of the reasons we formed, again, OutstandingPersonalRelationships.com and the PolygamyMasterclass.com, because these type of conversations go on over time.
Yeah.
So we understand that if we teach our children about marriage, that of course you can talk about monogamy, but you should also talk about polygamy. And if we were educated on that, then we can learn some of the wisdoms right away. Because if the best generation practiced polygyny, which is the first generation of the Prophet ﷺ, and those that after them, which are the best, and we know this, and they practiced it, but something is missing today and it's upside down, we need to find out why. We were new Muslims. And if we believe that Shaitan's biggest deed is to break up the family, and we know this in authentic ahadith, right? If his biggest deed is to break up a family, how about not allowing families to come together? How about keeping a husband and a wife from coming together in polygyny? Okay, how about that? Why aren't our leaders, being more vocal about the solution that Allah has provided. So, there's a lot of blame and finger pointing to go around, but we believe that education is a solution to it. Similarly, when it comes to racism, nationalism, asabiya, and many other things. So with that, we don't hide anything from our kids. Now, was it easy or anything at the beginning? No. So teaching them, look, this is polygamy. This is what Allah Ta'ala says. This is what the Prophet ﷺ said. This is not something that's, those are the old days. The only thing that's changed about us as humans is technology. Right. We still have the same needs, same desires. We're the same. So speaking with them, and of course they're different ages. Now I have 4 daughters first, followed by 6 boys. So I have 10 biologically, and they have 2 bonus children from Coach Nyla. Okay. So my daughters were very protective. You want to talk about the oldest daughters? I had they were 2 teenagers. Everybody else under them was they were young. So it was easy. Children are resilient, and they can understand as long as parents are direct in educating them.
They're kind of like the 4 horsemen now. They're very powerful, very direct, very stern, and they're very jealous about their father. I remember a cashier said he was good looking, and those your nieces? Why we gotta be his nieces? Why can't we be his daughters? I said maybe because he looks too young to have 4 grown daughters, standing with him at the store. But they just wanted to make sure, I believe, that everything was going to be okay. And they're very good at investigating. They're very good at defending. And it wasn't about me. It wasn't like, I don't like it because, or I like it because this or that. It was about their father, because that's the first man that they love is their father. That's the first man I loved, was my dad. So I understood that they had their own jealousies and not wanting to kind of share their father. And, when is he going to, and how is this? And I'm going to ask him, They were something else, but I love it. Because I told them, I said, you don't have to like every single little thing, but you must always respect Islam. That's all I ask. And they pretty much held up their end of that. And they did ask some questions. And sometimes I was like, I don't know, you got to ask your dad. I'm not going to answer for him.
They want to, evaluate, make sure things are going right. Yeah. So as a man, as I let men know, you have to demonstrate your value. Woman has to preserve her value, but a man must demonstrate it. So they want to see, how is he going? How is he with the time? Is it fair and all of that type of stuff, and become more open to it, because now you see the value in it so much so, like I mentioned, 3 of our daughters want their husbands to practice polygyny when that time comes.
Yeah, they told us.
Wow. I mean, there's so much information you've given me right now. Coach Nyla, how did your children actually, we're going to come to a break, and I'm actually going to ask you this afterwards, but just for some food for thought, it's basically about, being, with your children, dealing with the other children that are already there in the household, and that dynamic, because at the end of the day, as much as adults, we can also come to some sort of mindset, some sort of understanding that, yes, we can maybe somehow get used to it. But the children, it does take a bit of time. And even with education, their emotions are very raw, and they're still learning about, life and experience. So we've got about a minute. Could you tell me, did your children settle in nicely with the other children that were already there?
Well, my children, I kind of prepared them, kind of the family dynamic type of thing. Of course, it started because I was a single mother. So it's the thing of the dynamic of having another person telling you what to do other than me. They've had that for years before that. And then it was these are your siblings, or, bonus siblings, but this is family. So this is how we treat family. The thing is more of blending the kids than,
we're going to come back to that and get some more information, because what you're saying is so interesting, and I don't want to get cut off, but we are going to go into the final break today. Please stay with us. We have much more to ask all the coaches today, and inshallah, we'll see you in a few moments.
With 3 million members searching, SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to Single Muslim Live here on British Muslim TV, sponsored by SingleMuslim.com. I cannot believe this is the last part. I really don't want it to be like that. But anyway, as we've got a little time left, we're going to definitely go straight to you, especially Coach Nyla, as you were talking before the break, with regards to your children. And, at the end of the day, yes, it's definitely something that we need to consider as Muslim Ummah today, with what's happening in our world, with regards to single moms, with regards to women that are not finding their spouses, and they're looking very much with a criteria, with a CV, with a tick, a list of, you know, he has to have a degree, he has to have this, and having anyone who is already married is definitely a no-no. Whether it's from, you know, the person who is actually single or the wife that is already there in the family. It is so obvious. I mean, when I listen to all the criteria and whatever, this is not even something that anyone will actually even consider. But looking at what's happening in our world today, it is definitely something, a solution for a lot of families to actually build and, you know, create not just leadership, but actually security and safety for each other, and build a strong society. Now, when you teach that to your children, how difficult is it for them to understand this concept where they're going into another family and they're going to actually be told what to do by someone who's a complete stranger? I mean, it does take time to build that bond. I mean, I know there are people that living in families with their own biological parents don't have that connection. So what kind of person does it take for someone to come into the home and be that role model? Because I think what we need to worry about is having role models today. What's your experience, Coach Nyla?
Okay. First, I guess it's not like a stranger or anything like that coming into the home. It's the family dynamic where the children understand that it's, you know, it's kind of, when it sounds like that, it's like if someone is coming from the street and then just coming into the household telling them what to do.
It has happened, unfortunately, though. It has happened where people get married and they just, you know, say, well, this is your new dad, and, you know, they're going to be taking care of you. So then obviously the process starts before that. So it's really interesting that you say that, actually. So what is the process then if you are going to enter into this dynamic where you prepare the children so that it doesn't become a stranger and they do have that connection with someone who is actually someone they've never really met before, and now they're taking on that role?
Well, communication is definitely the key. Definitely explaining to your children, talking to your children, letting them know about the dynamics of it all. The thing is, I guess I can really strongly speak from my standpoint, was that my children can understand, anybody can understand that a single mother goes through a lot, trying to juggle a lot of different things. However, there's always been open communication between myself and my children. Always. If they were feeling upset, they could say that they were upset. If they were, you know, sad or mad or anything like that, they could say that. They just had to be respectful about the way they said it. And we discussed it. So I think that's a thing that's missing in a lot of families that have the issues with that, is being able to, the children being able to come to the parent about what they feel in a respectful manner, and the parent being honest and transparent as they can, not to the point where, you know, children have to know every little thing because they're not ready for that. But being able to discuss with them the dynamic, discuss with them and introduce them to the person. It's not that it's just some stranger. So this is a person that,
and you have to vet. You know, Islam has processes in place. So where's the walid? Where's the wakil?
Oh yeah, of course.
You know what I'm saying? It's very important to recognize the processes that Islam puts in to protect us. If men are supposed to be the qawam, those who are the protectors and the maintainers of women, if there's the ones who's supposed to be the front runners and those who stand up, then they need to stand up. Sure. We're looking for them. So sometimes we think of polygyny and there's this whole stereotype that it's only for those who are single women, who are widowed, who are too old, or who are barren. That's not the case. I just mentioned several times. We have 3 daughters, never been in any relationships. They want polygyny because they see many of the benefits, meaning they still have their own identity. They want to run their own businesses and do their things and have their own life also going on in addition to being married. So this is very important, one. And then there's 2 other parts that are, you know, important to understand when it comes to polygyny. There are a couple of things that we must know. So we started to show people saying, oh, that's just about lusts. You know, you need to be attracted. You should be physically attracted to the person you're going to be married to. It's not about personality, because one of the reasons for marriage and that commitment is to procreate, to have children, to properly accept Islam. Said he wants the biggest ummah. And I think, you know, we put 12 toward that. So we kind of doing our part there. But sometimes people miss and say, oh, they have to be old or widowed or not attractive, whatever. The Prophet ﷺ saw Juwariya, radiallahu anha, when her and her father and her tribe, they were captured. They were prisoners of war. Now, who relayed this many different hadith about her was Aisha, radiallahu anha, who was jealous of her. She said when she saw her and she turned the eyes of all the Arabs, she knew that the Prophet ﷺ would want to marry her. So much so that when she came to try to negotiate for her tribe, now she's 20 years old, brand new widow, because her husband was killed in the battle, who fought against the Prophet ﷺ. He saw her and she was trying to negotiate. He said, you know, I'll do better than that. What if I marry you? He proposed to marry Juwariya, our mother, one of the Ummahatul Mu'mineen, right, in front of his other wife, Aisha, radiallahu anha, who's favored, the person he loved more than anybody else in the world. Then he married her, and Aisha later came to say, radiallahu anha, said that she was the most beneficial to her people because they were all freed afterward. They were all in-laws of the Prophet ﷺ. One, that is attraction. It's very, very important. And two, there's a misunderstanding of the hadith. Usually it's just misquoted to try to put things together for somebody's side who's biased and against polygyny for whatever reason. When Ali, radiallahu anha, and Fatima, the whole situation when the Prophet ﷺ came to him as a father-in-law said, listen, I'm not saying making the haram, I'm not making anything that is halal, haram. Talking about a situation when he was interested in marrying the daughter of Abu Jahl. But if you go through this whole hadith, it said it's not befitting for the daughter of the messenger of Allah and the daughter of the enemy of Allah to be united in marriage to one man. Look at the wisdom behind this. So for us to distort or think something, oh, this is for the days of old, or the Prophet ﷺ prohibited with Ali and his daughter Fatima because it would hurt her. No, we need to be looking at what the ulama say about this to get proper understanding, or we are becoming like those who came before us, the Yahud and Nasara, where they pick and they choose from religion what they want. That's not us. We are Muslims, which means ones who submit, which is very, very important, especially when it comes to marriage, which is the foundation of family, whether it's monogamy or polygyny. It's your choice.
Beautifully said. I don't think I could have said it any better myself. And you really did underlie some really, important issues that a lot of people do have really so much misconceptions about. And it's not just about the communication, like you said. I think it's more important about the education. And we don't have the Islamic education, and especially in this generation, because the reason why I asked about the children dynamic and their opinions, because I've dealt with a few cases recently myself where, parents have had children, have actually, disowned them because they got married again. And even with the communication, because they weren't actually happy. So these are real situations and stories that I deal with. And that's why I bring out these kinds of issues, because it's happening where the wife has got married, even, as a second marriage, not having, in a polygamous marriage or anything like that, but just, being a single mom and marrying again, and the children were not happy after even the communication, and she's lost all her children. They don't want to know her. They don't understand. They don't like the dynamic, even having another person in that house to even speak to them. So unfortunately, this is the real, circumstances and consequences of these things. And I guess, as you we need to obviously understand, we've only come to the last 5 minutes of the show. I want you to each share, some final thoughts, and especially how can people reach you and all your details so that we can actually make sure that, we go away not leaving this without having that sort of contact if we need after the show. So go ahead, please. First with Coach Fatima, then Coach Nazir, then Coach Nyla.
Well, one place you all can visit is outstandingpersonalrelationships.com for more details about our coaching and our counseling, because we offer coaching and counseling. My co-wife and I offer coaching and counseling, and Coach Nazir offers coaching. So you can check us all out, and make sure you all are following us on our social media platforms. We're gonna take on
Facebook and YouTube, that's Outstanding Personal Relationships. On IG, it's Outstanding Relationships.
And we do have our polygamy masterclass, and you can go to polygamymasterclass.com for information on that, as well as you have any questions, visit us at support@outstandingpersonalrelationships.com.
It's been absolutely phenomenal. I've really enjoyed the conversation. You have opened up my mind to a lot of things myself, and I hope that you've, the audience, the viewers that are watching have exactly the same. And like I said, we need to really understand, the world around us and how we are as Muslims, and especially our meaning and purpose in life. And I think more education about our religion is really what's needed. And then also having that personal development within ourselves, where we understand human mind, behavior, psychology. And yes, I would urge people to take on a course to become a coach. It will help any kind of your business that you're in. It really does make a difference. So we have a minute left. Give me a final thought before we end the show. Any one of you, please go ahead.
Everything you said can be summed up in a simple quote. And that quote is, success only comes before work in the dictionary. And we encourage you to be outstanding, because average, nobody strives to be average. Average is the top of the bottom of the top. So we have to do much better, especially when we have the hawk.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Amazing, amazing. I want to thank everyone that has been watching. I want to thank especially Coach Nyla, Coach Fatima, Coach Nazir, for being an exceptional guest tonight, being so open and honest and telling us and opening up your home to us all as well. It's such an honor to meet you, to be connected with you. And inshallah, I only wish your family more blessing and more happiness. And anyone that wants to reach them, please do reach out. They also are authors of a book. What was that name again? Can you please say that to me?
Let's Talk Polygyny Uncensored.
Amazing. You guys have got it practiced. I tell you, those 12 steps that you've gone through, you have really, really, gone to the edge of it. And I'm telling you right now, I really do wish you well. I really do. Inshallah, enjoy the rest of your iftar and Ramadan. And inshallah, everyone that's watching, thank you so much for being with us today and watching, supporting. And inshallah, we're going to be back with another episode next week. From all of us here on British Muslim TV, I want to say thank you so much for the support. And inshallah, we only serve you so that you can have better relationships. And inshallah, we will see you next week at the same time, same place with another guest. Take care. Assalamu alaikum.